I'm going to be talking about some land today in Juniper Acres, Oregon. My name is McLaughlin here at Wilco Land. In this video, I'm going to cover your common questions. I'm going to teach you how you can go view this property on your own using the GPS coordinates in our listing and help you really understand what we're selling. I'll show you some houses in the neighborhood, some ways people are using land out there at the end of the video as well, so you can get a better understanding of how people are using properties out here in Juniper Acres. So first things first, getting started with a quick disclaimer as we go through some of these photos. This isn't legal advice, this isn't real estate advice. I'm simply sharing my thoughts and opinions here on the property with you today through my own due diligence and my 10 plus years of experience in the industry. I want to stop and pause here. This is actually our property. This is a really good photo showing that 10 acre, and so is this one. This is a really good showing our 10 acre too. So this is a driveway across the street. Our property's right here. Our photographer was parked down here. And I think these photos do a really good job of helping you understand how this area looks, what's out here, how flat our property is. You know, it's a very usable piece of land, ready for building, camping, or maybe a long-term investment or just pure recreation. So we see a lot of different ways people are using land out here in Juniper Acres, and I'll talk a little bit more about that throughout the video. So let's go back into the listing and teach you how you can go view a property like this. All you're gonna do is plug these GPS coordinates right into Google Maps or Onyx Maps, and it's gonna take you right to the property. So we can see I've got the coordinates plugged in up here. And we're located here south of Prineville, a little east of Bend, really close to the Prineville Reservoir State Park. So an underrated part of the country. You're really close to Bend and Prineville here. This is a really cool part of the country for off-grid living, tiny homes, yurts, campers, or even building, a house or a barn dominium out here. There's a lot of ways you can use property out here in Juniper Acres. Some of the properties do have access to power. Some of them are off-grid. Ours, you'll have to check with Central Electric Co-op to see Central Electric Cooperative power may be feasible. Otherwise, you're off-grid. Bring your solar panels. That's what a lot of people are doing out here. So camping and RVs are allowed. This is a really cool part of the country. I'm sure if you're looking at this listing, you probably have somewhat familiarity with Juniper Acres. But like I said, the target audience is going to be somebody looking for a recreational property, maybe a long-term land investment, maybe just a place to park their camper, and things like that. So I've got the property pulled up here on satellite imagery. You can see there's a little bit of a ravine running through the property here, and then you've got a big section of buildable or usable land, along this edge of the property. So easy road frontage, and like I said, about 5.4 acres on this side here, and then you're split by a little bit of a ravine. You can kind of tell with the topography too. A little bit of a ravine running through it. I'm sure it's dry as a bone. Then you've got another section over here. You could put your shop at. Build another home, right? And so those measurements of something like this is going to be roughly 1.85 acres. So, having that ravine run through the property, you're probably not going to build in there. It's a cool feature to have on your property, maybe add a level of privacy and things like that. But this is your biggest section. You put your driveway in. You can see there's a neighbor over here that's developed. You've got a camper across the road over here, kind of a pull-through camper site. Looks like they might have friends and family bring their campers to. You've got some sort of maybe a mobile home, storage containers, things like that. Like I said, people are getting really creative out here. You'll see anything from somebody's house to somebody living out of a camper to a tiny home, all sorts of different ideas, shops, whatever, small little farming operations, right? You get a lot out here in Juniper Canyon, or Juniper Acres, I should say. So that's how you're gonna go view the property, essentially, driving out there, using the GPS coordinates to go locate it. Again, all you're gonna do is pull those from right here. My favorite app is gonna be Onyx Maps. If you plug those right in here, you can actually walk the property boundaries. You can see I have the elite version. And just keep in mind these lot lines are off. This property does not include what's across the road from Redwood Lane. Redwood Lane does front the property. So imagine this property really should look like something like this. It does front Redwood Lane. It should look something like that, right? So this is wrong. What that is it's a GIS map. It's an overlay, overlaying the property on top of satellite imagery, and sometimes that stuff can be slightly shifted. So just keep in mind, your corners are actually further back here like this, and the property doesn't go across the street like that. So you do have road frontage on Redwood Lane out here in Juniper Acres. And so that's your road frontage right here. So should be pretty easy to access. Again, all you're doing is plugging these GPS coordinates into Onyx Maps or maybe even Google Maps, and you'll know when you're out here because you've got a house right here. Once you get past that house and you've got these two driveways right here, so maybe you don't have Onyx Maps, maybe you don't know how to use it, but on the north, I would say, the southwest corner of the property is pretty close to this driveway. So that's a natural feature in the landscape you can look for. And then the southeast corner is roughly, let's just call it, let's measure this, roughly 92 feet from the start of this driveway, close to 100 feet maybe from the start of that driveway, if you can see that. So that's going to help you identify that. And then the length of the property goes back roughly, 685 feet or about 2.25 football fields, so 230 yards. So that's going to help you visualize the property. Again, it does start pretty close to where that driveway starts, and it is just a little further, about 100 feet away from this driveway right here. So those are natural features in the landscape that you can identify the property with. If you plug those GPS coordinates into Google Maps, it's basically going to take your car right here, right on Redwood Road, and then you'll be able to identify this driveway, and it's 230 yards back. So if you want to walk all the way back, that's about 230 yards to help you visualize that. So let's talk about potential uses, why people buy land like this. I talked about that a little bit in the beginning of the video. I pulled up some recent listings that have sold lately, but these give you an idea of how people are developing on their properties out here and what it looks like, different advertisements. So it helps you understand what's possible with the property. Obviously, you as a buyer are going to have to go through that process, but I think this is a pretty cool little tiny home out here. I'm assuming it's off-grid. I don't see any solar panels, but like I said, some of the properties do have access to power out here, I believe, based on some of these listings, but you'll just have to call Central Cooperative and see if this property would be served power and what that would cost. Here's another idea, one bed, one bath, 400 square feet. I mean, I thought this was pretty cool. They must be on a generator. Maybe it's solar power. Maybe they do have access to power, but I wanted to kind of show you what this listing looks like too. So these are pretty cool ideas. These aren't even on permanent foundations. And this is what people are doing. And I don't even know if they have a septic system. That looks like an outhouse, maybe with a composting toilet. So I just wanted to show you maybe propane right here. Yeah, we can take a better look here. So again, I'm not the development expert, but I think, looking at these things and it gives you ideas of saying hey, this stuff is possible. I was right. Yeah, it's some sort of composting toilet or outhouse out here. But yeah, I mean, this gives you some sort of idea of hey, this is what people's properties look like. This is a finished product out here in Juniper Acres. Here's a 10 acre. Somebody fenced their property. It looks like they put a gate in. They've got a small shed out here. They've got their camper. Maybe they ran power to it. It's hard to tell. You might find some solar panels out here, then maybe on a generator, some sort of off-grid setup. But these are cool properties with some awesome views out here in Juniper Acres, and people seem to really like them. We've done some land deals back here, and people are super happy with the neighborhood. That's what your 10 acre could look like essentially out here. Again, I don't know if our property is feasible for power. It may be too far away to connect to or make the cost worth it, but people are finding ways with solar generators, things like that. The future of land is a really bright future in terms of the advancement of technology is going to make properties like this more and more valuable. So yeah, give us a call if you have questions. I do have some other listings out there in Oregon on the homepage. Properties in Washington, Idaho, Montana, places like that. So you can reach us here at 605-299-5553. Thanks for tuning in.